Hopefully it doesn't block.
I need people to grab the handouts that I have on the table behind you. So one of everything and then a couple of pieces of blank paper. And if you're in here and you don't have a chair, there's more over here, so you can grab one. And then everybody should have some white paper. Okay.
These are blank.
Well, welcome. I'm Julie Schultz, and I actually attend River of Life. If you haven't seen me before, but I actually attend here. It's nice to have all of you in this room. And Cole mentioned that I am the Executive Director of Main Street Family Services, and we're just a community resource. We work with families. We do all sorts of different services. We have therapy, we work with parents and parent coaching, and we offer some classes and a few other services. But we're just right here in Elk River, and just sharing that so you know that there's a resource if you or someone you know needs it. But today I'm really wanting to be here to just talk to you about how to work through conflict and communication in your family. And I know that all of you are coming here with conflict, and some of you even struggle with communication sometimes. So I'm not expecting anybody to be here with having resolved all those things. I'm sure that you all are facing that in some way or another. As I was preparing, I really thought that I was going to have a group of 2 people. Like, that's what I was really expecting. And so I'm like, okay. So, all right, so I have to kind of regroup here and figure out how to, like, speak to all of you. So, anyway. All right. But anyway, beside being, working in a company, that is really not my heart. My heart is for families. And my heart is to see families whole, and that people will be unified, and that their children will receive the blessings of a unified family so that they can grow up. We all know and have experienced at some level, whether it's friends or ourselves, the damage that happens in families, and its consequences are really lifelong. And so we can change that. If we can bring healing and wholeness to broken places in ourselves, then we can offer healing and wholeness to our children so they can grow up and be world changers. The truth is, your children are going to experience things that are challenging. They're going to experience things that are trauma. Everybody's talking about that these days. When I was a young mom, that wasn't a word. We didn't know about that. We knew that bad things happened to people, but it wasn't kind of common language. We didn't talk about it that way. So I have 8 children. My youngest is 25 and my oldest is 38. So I've got all these children that are now having babies, and so I'm a grandma almost to 12. I'm going to have my 12th grandson, who's going to be the 12th of all of them, coming in January. So I'm very excited. And each one is precious. But I'll tell you what, even at this stage, I always saw myself that I would always be parenting directly, like they would be in my home. I never imagined that they would actually move out. But they all did. That's good. You don't want them to necessarily live with you for forever. But I always thought I would be the one that was doing the work, and now I'm, on the other side. I'm a grandmother, and everybody talks about how great it is, and it actually is. So today I really want this to be experiential. Like I want, you guys are drinking through a water hose today, or like a fountain, I don't know, what do you call that? Like a fire hose, thank you. I mean, it's a lot. And so I just want you to go, okay, this is a lot. And I just want you to be okay. It's gonna be okay. And your kids are gonna be okay, and you're gonna be okay. It's all gonna work out. But I hope to give you some tools at the end of this. So first of all, my scripture that I picked is Philippians 4:4. And so this is my word over you. Always be full of joy in the Lord. I say it again, rejoice. Let everyone see that you are consecrated in all you do. Remember, the Lord is coming soon. Don't worry about anything. Instead, pray about everything. Tell God what you need and thank Him for all He has done. Then you will experience God's peace, which exceeds anything we can. You will experience God's peace, which exceeds anything we can understand. His peace will guard your hearts and minds as you live in Christ Jesus. And now, dear brothers and sisters, one final thing. Fix your thoughts on what is true and honorable and right, and pure and lovely and admirable and worthy of praise. Keep putting into practice all you learned and received from me, everything you heard from me and saw me doing. Then the God of peace will be with you. So just let that settle on your heart and mind today. And I'm just going to pray quick. Lord, I just thank you for all these beautiful souls, all these parents who are parenting children, and maybe some are grandparents. Some just love family and are here because they want to love and serve others. And we're all a part of your family, Lord. And we just thank you that you put us in families for a purpose, and you have ordained it as the foundation for our whole society and for the well-being and the safety and the growth of human life and these beautiful children that are all represented in this room. And we just pray that you would use this moment to give a few nuggets of hope and encouragement for all of these parents. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen. So, did you all get a white piece of paper? Mm-hmm. So can you just put it in a trifold however you want, but I want 3 sections. And I see myself here being recorded, and so I'm like moving outside. So, I want you to think about your family. I want you to think about your family tree. But at the top, I don't want you to go into an elaborate detail because I know that some of you have complicated family systems, okay? So I just want you to represent that you have 2 grandparents, your husband has 2, and you have 2, or 4 actually, you have 4. Or maybe, no, don't go to your grandparents, go just to your parents, so your children. So just your parents are on the top of the tri-fold, and then, so it would be, you're in the middle. You're the wife and the husband. And then up here, you've got a mother and a father, and there's a mother and a father up here, right?
This is like
So everybody should have that.
Like this?
right in the middle.
So this is the top of the trifold, this is the middle.
Oh, okay.
Does that make sense? So at the top, you're representing your parents, your husband's parents, your parents, or then you guys. And then these are your children. And that's the bottom of the triangle. I want you to identify your children, obviously by gender, so you can pick, the circles for me are female, the triangles are male, circle, whatever that is for your family. And then I want you, I hope I'm probably going a little too fast. So I'll just wait for a minute for you just to draw your little drawing.
Yeah, there's some right there. Does everybody have a pen?
Okay. So, and then these are your babies, Rob, and I want you to identify one quality that you notice about them. It could be a character quality, it could be an interest, or something that just really stands out about who they are. What is their, like the thing you celebrate about who they are, and they're of each of your children. And then I want you to think about what you're worried about for that child. What are you worried about? What keeps you up at night? You were, and maybe it's just one child, the rest are fine, it's just the one. It can be whatever, but if there was something you were worried about, what is it? So as you're thinking about that, and that's just something I want you just to kind of, this is where we're gonna look at this family tree as we talk today about the other things that I'm bringing to you. So the very first handout you have is the difference that makes a difference. And this is a handout that comes out of a curriculum that I teach. It's called Circle of Security. You may or may not have heard of it, but it's a fabulous curriculum for all parents. It's really designed to talk about the parent-child relationship when they're little, but it applies to children no matter, and our adult relationships no matter what stage of life we're in, but it's just foundational. So anyway, I'm gonna talk about secure relationships, and this is gonna be how we're gonna think about conflict, okay? So when we have secure relationships, I'm just gonna read it. We enjoy happiness. Children enjoy it with their parents. Children feel less angry at their parents. They turn to the parents for help when in trouble. They solve problems on their own. They get along better with friends. They have lasting friendships. They solve problems with friends. They have better relationships with brothers and sisters. They have higher self-esteem, and they know that most problems will have an answer. They trust that good things will come their way. They trust the people they love, and they know how to be kind to those around them. That is what comes from having a secure relationship. Now, I would think, if you think about it, you could think about yourself as a child. So here you are, represented here as a child. You can think about your babies. When you have secure relationships, you feel safe, and all of these things are more likely to happen for you. It doesn't mean that everything is, about your parents or whether they did a good job or a bad job. It's not that easy. There's a lot of other things that happen in people's lives, but when we have a good, secure relationship, we can flourish. Actually, science, or the research says you only need one good, secure relationship. It doesn't even have to be your biological parents. You just need one. And that's somebody that makes you feel secure. So how do we feel secure? That's this one. Okay, you guys, I'm gonna a little. So, attachment is, kind of seems like a strange thing, a strange place to start when we're talking about relationships, but that actually is how we build secure relationships and how we get our needs met, which helps us solve conflict. So, let's talk about it. Attachment is built, and all of you have different age children. So how many of you have littles like 2 and under? Okay, and how many of you have like toddlers up till 5? You could keep raising your hand if you have them all across, okay? And then like grade school up through, okay, and then high school? Okay, all right. So your attachment started here, but this is not going to be any different in your relationships with your bigger kids as far as its foundation. So when it comes to positive interactions, when you think about your interaction with your baby, what are the positive things you do for babies? And this is not a trick question. So just what are the positive things we do for babies?
Hold them.
Okay,
Feed.
Feed them,
we feed them.
change them, play with them.
When you're holding your baby and you've got them right here, what are you doing with your face?
Eye contact.
Smile, coo,
No.
laugh. When your husband or wife comes home from work and you're mad, do you do any of these things?
It's probably not.
Changing is meeting needs. We can adjust for the age, the appropriate age. But you don't sing to them, you don't laugh, smile, or even give eye contact if you're mad, right? We don't do that.
You don't coo for sure.
You don't coo. He's home. We're not cooing. So, but this is where we start. This is what's happening. And Harmony did a really great job of like dividing up the age brackets and all of that. Like, that's like really foundational to what we're talking about right now. So it really fits. But this is foundational for all relationships and building secure attachments. And this is what we need. Now, I erased my genogram, but you all have one in front of you about your family. And some of you had hard relationships with your parents. These things are hard for you. There are people, eye contact is really tough for them. Smiling is hard. Laughing, having a good conversation. Some of these things are very hard as adults to do these things. And it comes from the story where we came from. It's about what happened to you. Now, it's also what happened to your parents. It's also what happened to them. So we're not blaming anybody when there's hard things that have happened. It's just the reality of being human. That's just where we're all at. We're all human, and we came from human parents. None of us came from perfection. All right, let's talk about claiming and belonging. I want you to tell me all the sweet things you say to your children. What's all the sweet, fun things you say? Okay.
Proud of you. You're amazing. You're a blessing.
Special.
Enjoy you.
Funny, you're funny.
And the message, oh, I'm sorry.
I'm just gonna say hard
Hard
worker.
worker, yeah. You notice the good that they're doing? At the foundation of all of secure relationships is, I am here for you, and I'm not leaving. And that's a message we give, right? And when children don't feel that, they know it. And if you've ever experienced a parent that wasn't consistent and reliable, you know what that is. So I'm here. And I am not going anywhere. What did I say?
They're not leaving.
I'm not leaving. So this claiming and belonging. My last name is Schultz. You, not you, but if you were my babies, you are a Schultz. Think of your last name. You are an Anderson. You are your last name. And we are a family, and you belong to me, to this family, and you are special and important.
Yeah.
And those messages are very powerful, and they can get lost in the everyday frustrations of life. You are overwhelmed, and it's a hard job. You guys are doing a tough job. And there's hope for this. There's hope, and there's healing for things that are hurting and broken. So these are the beginning and the foundations of your relationships. And when we're upset, when we're frustrated, when we're hurt, when we're wounded, when we don't feel like we're getting our needs met, this goes away. Other kinds of things come out of our mouth. So this is the foundation. I'm sorry, I wish I had more room because then I could just keep it up, but you can keep writing it. All right. So, oh, it sticks. So at the bottom of your paper on this triangle, it talks about building trust and understanding the idea of when a child is in distress, or when when you're mad, upset, angry, hurting, crying, whatever those feelings might be. So I just want you to think about a baby. What happens when your baby cries? What is your response? Or what's your ideal response?
Go to it. Find what's wrong.
Okay. So the baby has a need, and ideally, we go in and we meet the need. All right? And what happens, how many times a day do you think you might meet your baby's need? Like, hundreds. Probably thousands. Right? I've been babysitting grandparents. I'm like, this is a lot of work, you guys. I forgot. So, not really, but I mean, it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
They are needy all the time, and you are on. Now, the really good thing about parenting is that you do not have to be perfect at it. As a matter of fact, you don't even need to meet their need 100% of the time to have good outcomes for children. They say 30% of the time. You could be wrong 70% of the time. Isn't that weird? So we'll try to be better than 30%. But sometimes we try and we don't know, right? Sometimes we just don't know. What do they really need? But this idea that we are coming in and we're meeting the need is really, really important. And the reason why, and this is my little image, is when we're not consistent and reliable, what happens is the baby has a need and no one comes in to meet it. Now that's going to happen occasionally. I don't mean that if you miss something, it's not the end of the world. But if we're not consistent and reliable, when other things get in the way, for our own mental health or our own well-being, we will miss things. And if we're not consistent and reliable, babies have needs. And if nobody's coming in to meet the needs, the babies learn some things. They begin to believe things about the world that are not good. First of all, that I'm not loved. And it is not something that they think here. It isn't something you could undo in their brain, like cognitive, like talking about it. It's not going to be talk therapy. It's actually something they believe in their being. They begin to believe that I'm not loved, that I'm not valuable, that I can't get my needs met, and I have to do it all by myself. You are not going to meet my needs, and I will not let you. And I've seen that in a lot of children. And it's a very hard thing to undo. It doesn't mean that if that's happened in your family, that you can't undo it, but we have to work on strategies for how, because it certainly is a way to heal. So what can happen is one of two things. Either children learn to escalate to get their needs met, or they go internal to get their needs met. And the escalation can look like rage, and then it's the light switch off. So have you ever, I don't know, because I'm in the mental health field, I work with a lot of people who struggle with their emotions. And so they rage, And it's like somebody turned off the light switch and they don't even know that they were raging. And they don't take responsibility for it, and everybody's like, what, you just like totally annihilated me, and I'm lost in this, and it's like it never happened to you. And that's kind of where it comes from. I mean, I can't say it for everybody, but this actually is a big part, can be a big part of it. Or we just spiral inward, and we become incapable and completely dependent on other people, and we don't ever leave the house, and we're always worried, and we're always anxious, okay? So when we have consistent, reliable caregivers, and we're meeting the needs over and over and over again, and that's just all the more to empower you. Like, you are doing a good job when you're going in and meeting your baby's needs, and when they're crying, and when you're cooing at them, and when you're smiling at them, and when you're telling them beautiful things about themselves. You are meeting their needs. And that will build healthy relationships. And the outcome are these things that we just described here. They're gonna have healthy, enjoyable relationships because they feel secure. They know that somebody's there for them, which builds trust, which is the foundation for every relationship. If you don't have trust, it's very hard to solve problems. It's very hard to feel like you're on the same team, because so that has to be healed. All right. So, you do not have to have been perfect at this. And if there are gaps or things you're noticing, hey, some bad things happened along the way in our story. I see a lot of, and it's likely that that's happened in this room. Domestic violence, addictions, depression. Those things are the things that keep us from being present for each other. So if that is part of your story, you just need to know it. And we can start working on healing those parts of your journey. So now, I want you to take up this paper. And this is the being with. And this is just one more exercise. When you look at your family tree and you see your parents up here, I want you to show me in this little circle. So before you don't do anything quite yet, because it'll take me a second to explain it. So we all need our parents to be there when we're curious, when we are joyful. Mom, look, I did it, right? Mom, look at this cool bug outside, or I don't know. How does this toaster work? Don't plug it in. Sadness. We need people to be there when we're sad. We need our person to be there when we're fearful, angry, and in shame, when we feel shame. So now you were all parented by somebody who is good at this or not so good at this. So I want you just to quickly jot down whether they were with you. This is you, the circle is you. If your parent was able to do that particular emotion with you, put a little circle with that name of that emotion inside the circle. If your parent could not join you in that particular emotion, write the circle and put that emotion in the circle outside the circle. And then if they were sometimes there and sometimes couldn't handle it, show that. Does that make sense? So kind of halfway in, kind of halfway out. So I'll just take for a minute for you to reflect. Where were your parents for you?
Do it for each of them individually? Or
Just for, you can look at it as one. So if you had either your mom or your dad was kind of there for you, you can even just write yourself a little note. My dad could do this emotion well. My mom struggled with that one. You could, however it makes sense for you, you can be really. Oh, this one? Yeah, you can have this one.
Thank you so much.
I'm not really sure how long I have. Do you guys know?
3:20.
Okay, so we're good. I don't want to move too slow and I don't want to move too fast. But as you're thinking about that, what you're going to notice is oftentimes the emotions that you weren't supported in when you were younger are harder for you as an adult to do for your children. This is a lesson so that you just know. You're just aware, hey, this is a harder emotion for me. I struggle with this. I struggle with my child's anger because no one supported me and it triggers me and I really react big to bigger emotions. Nobody really joined me when I was sad. It was a shameful thing to be sad, so nope, I couldn't be sad. I had to always pretend like I was happy all the time, and that was the only way I could get my needs met. So I just want you to be aware that because, I just want you to know that that's hard. But if you know about it, then you can manage yourself so you can be present for your child. I know this one's hard for me. Oh, that's why this is triggering. That's why I don't know what to do in this moment. This might be where the other spouse could come in and help me manage this moment with my child because this one's hard for me. Or, hey, I'm having a good day. I can do this. And I just understand myself and I'm going to get my need met somewhere else. But so I'm going to kind of throw different ideas to you. And the next one is, our children are looking for connection in all of those emotions, and so are you. Now, a lot of us will say things, and it's very common when we're frustrated to say, our child, he's just being so needy, or he's just looking for attention. It's very, very common. And if we could reframe it, and we could say it differently, we say, they're just looking to get their needs met. And they have a need met to be supported around curiosity, or they have a need that needs to be met around their sadness. And sometimes the behavior looks different than what the underlying emotion is. Sometimes it's masked in something really awful and we really don't know what it is. But there's something underneath it that we just need to wait and explore, and this is going to help you. So this is another triangle, and you can use your other white piece of paper or the back of it or whatever. This is not the same as your attachment triangle. So, who, when they tell their spouse they've had a bad day, wants them to say, don't have a bad day, it's an okay day, don't worry about it, it'll be fine. Do you like that? Does that help? Does it help? When we dismiss the feeling of having a bad day, or we didn't get our need met, whatever it might be, we really want someone to sit with us. That we want to get regulated. I am really angry. Something at work did not go well, and I am pissed off. I want somebody to sit with me in that moment. Now, I don't necessarily need somebody to join me in every emotion. Like, that's not good either, but let's just say I need you. For this purpose, I need you to join me in this. I'm really mad. This really bad thing happened and I don't know what to do about it. Just sit in the moment with your child or with your spouse. I'm here with you. I'm not going to solve it. I'm just going to sit here until we get regulated. I'm going to offer my regulation to you, and that's what we do with babies. Baby just gets upset, and we come in and we get that baby regulated. Your wife is upset, come in and get her regulated. Wait, did I do this right? Yep, I did it right. Okay. I'm like, are these all right? Okay, so now I get it. You're really mad about that. Maybe you even disagree for their anger. Maybe they don't even, like, that's a stupid thing to be mad about. What did you do? But we're not going to say that because we are a good regulation partner. We're going to relate. I understand that was a really hard day. I understand that that was a really disappointing thing. And you know what? Your boss should not have said that to you. I get it. You know that nobody's perfect. Things happen. But we're going to relate. I'm just going to sit here and wait until you're ready to talk about it. I'm going to regulate, and then we're going to talk about it, and we're going to relate. And we don't have to rush through this. This does not have to happen instantly. It can happen at a reasonable pace for whatever the circumstances is, and maybe it's the next day. And then we are gonna respond. So I have regulated, we've gotten to a place where you're regulated. Now I've kind of jumped back and forth between husband and wife relationships and kid relationships. So whatever is in your brain, whatever the need is for you. Adults, that's a different story. We have to kind of take responsibility, but we can have our partner join us a little bit in helping us get regulated. But when we're thinking about kids, they might need us in a different way, and definitely based on their age, they're gonna need us differently. So a 2-year-old, waiting for them to get regulated before we move on, relating to your kiddo who just came home from school, who's really upset because somebody punched him on the bus, or somebody teased him, or took his backpack, or whatever, or his teacher embarrassed him. We're just gonna regulate, we're gonna relate. And then if there's a reason to respond, this is your moment after you've done these other things. Because the response is gonna be in our thinking brain, where it's not gonna just be our responding brain, the one that's all reactive with all the emotion. Those have to calm down or we're not gonna get anywhere. So it is really easy when your child embarrasses you to want to go to responding. You cannot behave like that. That is not okay. And this is why, and we need to do this and this and this. That's probably not the moment. It's not that that conversation doesn't need to be had. It certainly can be, but it just needs to wait until everybody has regulated, we've related to the experience of those feelings, and now we can solve those problems and maybe even have a consequence if we're talking about kids. But this is the way to build this relationship with your kiddo so that they know that they can count on you. You are reliable, you're predictable. I know I can count on you to meet my needs. And we are not gonna do this perfectly. Remember, 30% of the time. You guys you can be wrong. Because we're not gonna always do it right. But if we can join them in their struggle, we're gonna have better outcomes for discipline when it comes to having to make corrections. Now there's other things that impact our children. There's their temperament, there's mental health disabilities that they might need to be addressed. Like there's a gamut of things. This is not just it's a magic potion, just go do that. Like there are other components to, why we behave the way we do. But if we can get to know our child and we understand their needs, we can meet those needs and recognize that they have them, and then we can do the things that actually build connection. But remember, they are not trying to annoy you. They really want to connect with you, and they just don't know how. ADHD kids are a really good example. Now, I have a boy, one of my children has ADHD, and he still has it, and he's an adult. And I remember when he was young, I would be like, I don't know what to do with this child. And he struggled with relationships and friendships and telling people what he needed because of how much is inside of him, right? And his perception of what other people are doing and not doing were not accurate. And one of the images that was drawn back then was that it's kind of like a sandbox, and all the children are playing and building a beautiful city. And the ADHD child comes in and jumps in the middle and wants to play too. And everybody's reactive and he doesn't understand what's going on. So that's just a little example of sometimes our kids need other supports, and that's okay too. Because we all have experienced those things. So when you look at your family and you know where you've come from and you know who you're responsible for underneath you, that's okay. I want you to think of one word when you go home today of what you think you're going to find when you get home. And maybe it's going to be chaos, maybe it's going to be peace, maybe it's going to be nobody's there, we're just going to have a great night. Like, what is it going to be that you're going to find when you get home? And I want you to remember that you can do this, and that it will take practice, and that you don't have to do it perfectly. And that God will show you, just like all the teaching from today. It's going to show you what your children need. You're going to ask Him for wisdom. What does my child need in this moment? How can I respond to them differently? And so hopefully some of these are little nuggets that will help you. Anyway, does anybody have any questions? I have a couple minutes. Any thoughts? All right. Well, thank you for coming. That was nice to meet all of you.